Thousands of Americans have seen Samantha Corbin in a nonviolent activism training video.
I'm Sam, and I'm excited to welcome you to the 99% Spring video training. All across America, tens of thousands of ordinary people are coming together in living rooms and schools, community centers and union halls to take part in hundreds of trainings like this. Who are we? We are workers and the unemployed, students and retirees, immigrants and environmentalists. We are the 99%. We've been exhilarated by the way the Occupy movement has changed the political conversation. People recognize that the concentration of wealth and power with the 1% has wrecked our economy, despoiled our environment, and corrupted our democracy.
How you got involved with Occupy Wall Street?
Well, I'm an organizer from New York. I work for a group called the Other 98%, and have for a while, but I'm also a trainer. I train nonviolent direct action, and when Occupy Wall Street was, the graphic came out, people started talking about it. That's my town. I thought this sounds great. I want to help out, and started organizing nonviolent direct action trainings to prepare for the occupation.
Okay, and then you said something about a faith part of Occupy Wall Street. Tell me about the faith part.
Well, there's an awesome group of people who organize under the banner Occupy Faith, and it's faith leaders and organizers of faith who are, and a lot of people who are organizing in the faith community around Occupy and a lot of the values of Occupy.
In 99% Spring, you emphasize from the beginning to the end stories.
Yeah.
Why? Why stories?
Stories are how we understand our lives. Stories are how we connect our experience to other people's experience. Stories are incredibly powerful. We connect to each other's stories. And again, ultimately, we're talking about connections. We're talking about human connections. We're talking about issues and things that need to be won. Those issues don't matter as much unless they're connected to stories. And those stories don't even have to be human stories. They can be stories of a mountain. Those are usually connected to human stories. They can be stories of an animal, but stories are the way that we process our lives and build meaning into our lives.
Okay. And you're organizing to, specifically, what is the area you're working?
Well, I still mostly work in training, actually. I did a lot of work on the 99 Spring project, and I train, again, mostly in nonviolent direct action. But we're also working on a banks campaign. It's called F the Banks. We have a website called F the Banks, F for foreclose, and we're targeting mostly Bank of America, starting with, but J.P. Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo, of course, are big players in the foreclosure crisis as well, and deserve our attention.
You have a very strong sense of justice and injustice, indignation and injustice. Where do you get that? Where does that come from for you?
I actually think that was something that I learned in school a lot. We were told a lot of stories. When I was a little kid, we had an ethics class when I was a kid, and we had ethics every single year from the time I was, I think, in 4th grade through high school. And just having a forum to talk about ethics was really powerful, and hearing stories about civil rights leaders or people who fight for justice and then taking it into a space where we could talk about it in terms of ethics was a really important way to experiment with that as a young person and decide what I think.
Okay. And where did you go to school?
It was called the Ethical Culture Fieldstead School.
It was the Ethical Culture
Fieldstead School in New York.
And you've been at this organizing for how long?
I've been doing some kind of organizing since I don't even know. I mean, when I was a little kid, Save the Rainforest, when I was a teenager around gun control, and then after I got out of high school, I was organizing mostly around environmental issues, and then environmental justice and indigenous rights was one of the first actions that I ever worked on. And I mean, there are a lot of these different issues, but I think that what I keep coming back to is they're all the same issue. And it's not just that all those issues are connected, they're the same issue. They're about justice, dignity, freedom, love, equity,
And the values that you learned at the school?
The values, some of those values that I learned at school, some of those values I learned just by being human. Like, so we all yearn for love and connection and understand, like innately understand fairness and equality. those aren't things that, I mean, it's great when those are taught explicitly, but those are also things that just humans understand. So when we speak to those values, everybody gets that.
For under 30, that generation, do you feel like they're a lot more connected like you are in terms of their understanding of injustice and the need to try to do these things? Or you think that a lot of them are just trying to figure out how to get through school and get by?
I mean, people are all over the map. I mean, some people just have to deal with the getting through life kind of daily grind. Some people, I mean, a lot of folks in my generation are still burdened with student debt and need to deal with that. But also I think in general people are understanding connectivity and how all of these things are intersecting very strongly, and a big part of that is the internet. A big part of that is being able to communicate with anybody, almost anywhere, about whatever you're interested in.
Okay, someone that was interested in some issue, ethical issue, any given one, and they were trying to find a way that they could make a difference. What's the most important thing that you could, advice that you could give?
Talk to your neighbors. I think that...
Talk to people you know.
Talk to people you know. There are a lot of organizations that you can get in touch with. I mean, again, the other 98%, you can talk to us. You can, if you want training, you can talk to the Ruckus Society. There are a lot of outlets to connect to those larger structures, but ultimately, like, working with people that you know and you trust around things that you all care about is what makes change, but also builds life into the work. Yeah, that's how we're fully alive, when we're doing what we need to do with people that we love and build community with.
And if they were to try to connect with you, say over the internet, is there a website?
Sure.
What's the website that they say?
Well, you can find the other 98% on Facebook. We have a really vibrant Facebook community, people sharing and talking all the time. And you could also go to the other98.com.
Okay. Now, this is not the 99%, it's the 98. Why the switch to the 98?
So it didn't switch to the 98. We've been the other 98% for a few years, and it was originally the other 95% actually, and then it was the other 98 based on the Bush tax cuts, because it benefited the 2% at the expense of the other 98%. And we were like, well, that's a great name, that's a great meme, that's what we want people to be thinking about, that's the way we want people to be thinking, this 2% versus the rest of us, the other 98%. Well, let's just call the organization what we want people to engage with. So it's the other 98, and then Occupy started and clung to the 99, and we're one off. It's not just about finances, it's about a small group of greedy people operating and living their lives at the expense of not just the financial well-being of other people, but the very, and again, not even financial livelihood, but like safety and health of other people. You know, making money off of a private healthcare industry or private prisons or environmental destruction. This isn't even just about economic divides anymore. This is about moral divides around what affects people's lives.
What advice do you have for progressive evangelical young people? Anything specific to them?
I don't work much with an evangelical community. I guess I would say I'd love to talk to you.
Good, you're going to.
Like, a lot of what I liked about, a good friend of mine is the son of a minister, and I would go to church with him a lot, and I was raised Catholic. And one of the things that I really loved about those spaces is that in our daily lives, most people don't have space set aside to talk about these big issues, these big things that connect to spirit as well as community, and building a community together. We have to go to work, we have to go to school, we have to make money and take care of our families. We don't have space set aside to engage with that. And so I think it's really important that people have those spaces, and for some people it's within their faith, it's within their faith community. For some folks it's in activism, for some folks it's in art, but I think that having that space is really, really important.
Okay, conscience. Someplace in there you have developed this really strong conscience. What is conscience? You're going to get to answer a question that nobody has an answer for, so don't. It just for you, what is that is conscience? If you were to try to define it,
I think it's living and acting in integrity, or with integrity, and in line with the values that you hold. So, identifying what your values are, being real about whether you apply those values to everybody or just some people, and then checking in with them and being accountable to yourself and having integrity with that.
Okay. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Election votes cannot be sold. I don't know, but I've been told. I don't know, but I've been told. Election votes cannot be sold. Election votes cannot be sold.